Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is NateFNGreat, and it's another edition of the Game Changer podcast, long awaited for so long. And I'm being joined here by I can't talk right now. I know English somewhat. So I'd like to welcome you guys to a special guest that I've had on the show before. Actually, it's one of the first few times I've had two Canadians on the show. This one is the second best Canadian that I know right now. I know that there's some people that might disagree with me when it comes to that, but I do not care. He is absolutely amazing. He is wonderful. He is the one and only. You only need one name to know who he is. He is Slack.
How are you doing, sir?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. How's it going?
It's going good, man. It's actually warm in Canada for the first time in a bit, so it's been nice. It's been nice.
Well, you can thank America for that because we took the brunt of those severe storms not too long ago.
Oh, it was crazy. Like, people seeing like snow for the first time in Canada is just like, yo, those are rookie numbers. Like.
All right, so reason why we have Slack back on here on the show is because a few months ago he actually pitched the idea of actually doing some AEW fantasy bookings, and I thought that might actually be kind of cool because there's not too many of those that actually get put out and about. Maybe It's because AEW is still a little bit new, even though they've been around for 3-4 years now. Actually, I think it is going to be four years next year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like maybe there's not much to go off of. The only one that I've seen do an AEW booking would have been Adam Blante when he booked the return of CM Punk.
That's actually the reason I ended up messaging you.
Oh, really?
Was that video. I saw that and I was like, you know, there is like a lot of potential in AEW for fantasy booking, especially because of the connections that Tony Khan has.
That is very true. That is very true. So we decided to do two different fantasy bookings like we did with Mr. Fretz a long time ago. But we're actually doing something kind of unique here. We're actually taking two different stories. Slack has had his, I have mine, but we're starting at the same point, which is going to be at Forbidden Door, and we go above and beyond. We both talked about it before the show. One of us goes a little bit into the new year while the other one kind of stops at full gear. You guys will get a chance to hear some great creative deals, so definitely check us out on our Twitters and on our Instagram, all that good stuff. So last time we did this, we had you go first, and then it took a little bit of a while.
Yeah, that's why I ended up going last the second time we did it.
So I think in all fairness, if you're okay with it, I'll start off first. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you how I would book the singles push of one and only bask in his glory of Keith Mother Effin Lee. Also bears saying, WWE, how could you screw up Keith Lee? I just need to get that out of the way. So we move into Forbidden Door. Now, obviously, right now as it stands, at the recording we're doing this, Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland are in a tag team. And the two of them are a pretty good tag team, honestly. But some good things have to come to an end, so we have to find a way to split the two up. How are we going to do that? Well, we need to also have them have a great way to go out. And the way that I have it is that they're going to be booked against a great New Japan tag team by the name of Juice Robinson and Dave Findlay. For those of you that might know, they are former Impact Tag Team champions and well-known over in New Japan, plus one of the most devastating doomsday devices I've seen since the Road Warriors. So we have the matchup between the two of them there, and it seems like everything's going fine. Everything's going melancholy. Keith Lee is in the ring. Looks like he's going to make the tag to Swerve, but Swerve drops down, and he walks away. This allows Juice Robinson and Dave Findlay to hit the doomsday device on Keith Lee, which I know that's crazy and that might be a risky bump, but I think Keith Lee is safe enough to do this bump. So that leaves the question, why Swerve? Why? He comes out and he says that he is tired of carrying all of this extra weight, all this extra baggage that is Keith Lee. And no, that's not a fat joke. That is just literally Swerve Strickland being Swerve Strickland, which is awesome. So he's saying, I was the bigger star when it came out to it. I've worked in the underground. I've had to swerve my way through different promotions to get to where I'm at today, and I'm going to continue that by being my own person and leading my people to that next realm. And again, that's not a race thing. Trust me when I say it's going to evolve something good. So Keith Lee, he comes out, and he is ready to just tear the head off of Swerve Strickland when all of a sudden we see Brianna Brandy appear from the audience, and everybody's like, that's BFAB. And then from the two entryways, we get Tehu Miles and AJ Francis. Ladies and gentlemen, they attack Keith Lee, and it's established that we get Hit Row in AEW, but obviously since they can't use that because legal issues, blah, 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 they've actually dubbed themselves as the Hit Makers with a Z at the end. Why? Because the 90s were cool. Let's face it. Awesome. So the Hit Makers make their debut here, and we get some matches with the Hit Makers and Keith Lee. Keith Lee is just trying to get his hands on Swerve Strickland until we reach a point where Tony Khan says, okay, we can't have this much violence, so here's what we're going to do. Keith Lee, you and Swerve Strickland are going to battle each other at All Out in Chicago, but here's a stipulation. You two cannot lay a hand on each other until All Out or face the risk of suspension without pay or termination. So we actually build that up between the two of them. But that doesn't mean that the Hit Makers can make their appearance during Keith Lee matches. So we build up between Keith Lee, Swerve Scott, all the way to All Out. They win their consecutive matches where Keith Lee is just showing that he's a freaking badass, because he is. Just every single match Keith Lee does, it's amazing. And then you also have Swerve Strickland winning his matches, whether it be nefarious means being him being a heel or because the Hit Makers help him out. We get the match at All Out. It's a bit of a barn burner, but not too crazy. And there's a reason why. It'll make more sense later. This one is probably, I would say, about a 5 out of 10, where Swerve Strickland, with the help of the Hit Makers, cost Keith Lee the matchup. This allows Swerve Strickland to get into that number one spot in the rankings for the TNT Championship. And on an episode of Dynamite, we get Scorpio Sky versus Swerve Strickland for the TNT title. In this matchup, despite Keith Lee trying to intervene in this, Swerve Strickland wins the TNT Championship. And it is just one of those things where we see Swerve Strickland on his high horse being like, oh, yeah, look at my belt. It's no longer a Kobe Bryant one. It's going to match my grills that I have here. It's going to look awesome. I'm Swerve Strickland. And also what this does is also going to give a lot of the other members of Hit Makers the chance to have tag team matches where they could possibly compete for the tag team titles, and also gets Brianna a little bit of time to work with the women's division as well. I'm not saying push her to the moon, but I'm definitely saying that she's going to need to be in the ring sooner or later. So now where does that leave Keith Lee when it comes to this? Well, Keith Lee is still going to try to find a way to get to Swerve Strickland, but obviously he's a bit outnumbered right now. So what's the best way to do it? You have to neutralize that by recruiting some other people. Originally, I thought of the idea of recruiting like Eddie Kingston and Santana and Ortiz to this, but I thought to myself, well, the problem is I think that they deserve to be in the tag team title picture more. Honestly, give me LAX versus the Young Bucks. I'd be totally fine with that, but that's a story for a different time. So instead, I decided to recruit Daniel Bryan and Wheeler Yuta from the Blackpool Combat Club to help him out. So we get a matchup.
Name, by the way.
It's a little bit of a weird name, but it is what it is. So we actually get an epic 6-man tag before Full Gear, where we are set up to have Keith Lee versus the Hit Makers in a 3-on-1 handicap matchup. Keith Lee agrees to this because he wants to make sure that he does not have anyone interfering in this matchup. So we get the matchup there. Swerve Strickland, he picks up the pin on Keith Lee in the 6-man tag. At Full Gear, though, because of a slight miscommunication between the Hit Makers, Keith Lee is able to hit a Spirit Bomb. He hits the Big Bang Catastrophe. He is able to pin 2 members of the Hit Makers while Swerve Strickland looks on. He realizes that's his fate that he is looking for. And I like to make things a little bit original. So I figure, what's a good way to really make this better? And how can I make this even more spicy, in the words of Bill Hader? I am deciding that Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland face each other in a best-of-5 series, starting on that week's Dynamite all the way till Winter is Coming. Because
cheeky,
I know, because like Slack has said in the past, they have a lot of TV episodes for Dynamite. It's kind of crazy.
Whoa,
We'll get to that. So much like Motor City Machine Gun and Beer Money had in their best of 5 series, the winner of each series deal, they get to pick the stipulation going into the next matchup. But Swerve Strickland makes an added bonus stipulation. He says that if Keith Lee loses this best of 5 series, he loses that opportunity to be the TNT champion, he becomes the heavy for the Hitmakers. Because that's just the way I think Swerve would do it. I mean, honestly, one of his best runs was in Lucha Underground. I'm trying to make him even more heelish than that. Although him going through like a 3 stages of hell deal with Dante Fox was absolutely amazing. Definitely recommend that. Anyway, so Swerve, he wins the first matchup, which is a normal match. And the next matchup they have is a no disqualification matchup because the numbers game, unfortunately, Keith Lee is not able to do it. So they decide, you know what? We may have messed up the last time. Let's try it again. So now we get the 3-on-1 handicap match again for the third fall, but Keith Lee able to find a way to overcome that. Keith Lee decides, okay, obviously, regular match is not going to work, so let's have ourselves a good old-fashioned ladder match for the 4th series deal. Keith Lee is able to win here, and then Keith Lee versus Swerve is set for Winter is Coming in a 30-minute Iron Man matchup.
That's hot. That's hot. Spicy.
It is very spicy. So in this matchup, this is where we get Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland at their best 30 minutes, tearing the walls down. I would not even have them pin each other until at least the final 30 seconds, much like with one of the great Iron Man matches ever being Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. We see Swerve Strickland getting close. It seems like, no, he can't put him away. And Swerve Strickland's like, okay, got this. Hitmakers have been already ejected to the back. Swerve Strickland, he's going for the top rope stomp, but Keith Lee is able to catch him out of midair. Boom! Spirit bomb with 5 seconds remaining. 2, 3. Keith Lee picks up the only fall in that matchup, and he becomes the new TNT champion. Oh, bask in the glory, TNT. That is Keith Mother Effin Lee. And because I'm cool with rematches, they decide, hey, we're going to run this back one more time at Revolution. But this time, Keith Lee just says, I want to make sure that there is no interference. There is no excuses, none of that. So instead, at Revolution, they decide it's going to be Keith Lee versus Swerve Strickland inside the solid steel cage because I love myself a good steel cage match. And obviously,
I'd like 10 of those, please.
Obviously, Keith Lee picks up the victory here. He goes on to defend the TNT title like every week because I think he could pull off a John Cena run here.
Yeah.
And Swerve, he works with the Hitmakers, and they start to slowly become the great faction that I believe that they could be, which could evolve Swerve Strickland challenging for the AEW World Heavyweight title. Ooh. I think that would be a nice little touch. But
spicy.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is my way how I would book bask in the glory Keith Lee, but also bringing in Hit Row to AEW. Slack, what'd you think?
The Hit Row edition was fucking cheeky. I gotta admit, I did not think that that's where you were gonna go with that at all. Because I was thinking you would make a faction for Strickland because I think he works really well in a group setting, like when he's the mouthpiece. But I didn't even think of Hit Row. That was cheeky, Mr. Sir. Mr. Sir, that was very cheeky.
Well, WWE didn't know how to use it right, so let's use it right here in AEW. In all honesty, people can be like, but you're signing more WWE stars. Yeah, but they were not really big established stars in WWE. So let's make them those established stars here in AEW. And honestly, if that doesn't work, you could argue maybe bring in like Private Party or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe even have Jade Cargill. No, I don't want to throw Jade in that because that's just tying a giant.
That's too much talent in one clump.
Yes, it is. So
that's the problem with the WWE roster is that, like, genuinely speaking, at a time WWE had like the best roster in the world and did dick with 90% of it.
Because of course they did.
I'm sorry if that was a little crude, but like it's true.
I don't think it was crude enough, to be fair.
No, well.
All right, so now it's my turn to sit and listen to the amazing fantasy booking of Slack as he goes from Forbidden Door to Full Gear. So, Slack, the floor is yours, my friend.
Mine's a little bit longer. personally. I'm sorry, because I got kind of carried away, but this is not like the first time, I swear. So I'm not actually starting at Forbidden Door. I'm starting at the Dynamite before Forbidden Door. And we're going to have Switchblade Jay White come out and cut a promo. They refer back to him saying that Adam Cole and Hangman Page are not getting the title shot, that because he's the champion, he gets to call the shots. He then continues, I don't know if you've seen his Catalyst of Professional Wrestling promo that he did in New Japan after winning the title from Okada. It was fantastic. He talks about the fact that if he hadn't beaten Kenny Omega for the U.S. title, Kenny Omega would have stayed in Japan, and there would be no AEW. There would be no Adam Cole. Like, there would be nothing without Jay White. So he's shooting off his mouth, as Jay White does so brilliantly. And Tony Khan comes out and says that he spoke to Takami Obari, who is the president of New Japan, about the IWGP title match that will happen at Forbidden Door. And unfortunately for Jay White, he doesn't have the power he thinks he does, because Khan and Obari have come together to find an actual opponent for Jay White. But Jay will not find out who he's wrestling until we get to Forbidden Door. So, the night goes on, and Adam Cole is still irate about the fact that he's not getting his match. He says, one way or another, I'm wrestling at Forbidden Door. I don't care if I have to fight someone from AEW, someone from New Japan, someone from Impact. Just give me anybody. And then this music hits. And if you don't know that music, that is the music of one Tetsuya Naito. And we have Adam Cole versus Tetsuya Naito confirmed for Forbidden Door, because I feel like that would be an amazing match. Later on in the night, Hangman Page comes out again, calls out Okada once again, says, I don't care if you have the belt or not, Okada, I want you. Out comes the Men of the Year. And they start chatting with Mr. Hangman Page when suddenly the lights go out and we hear and out comes the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. He clears the Men of the Ring off the stage, comes down, gets in Hangman's face, extends a hand, and shakes his hand. And we have Okada versus Hangman Adam Page, also now confirmed for Forbidden Door. Now, I'm going to run my main booking through what I believe Forbidden Door is going to end up actually being. But just for a little bit of side fun, I decided to book my own card as how I would have booked Forbidden Door. I'm going to blow through this. I would still have Jon Moxley versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. That has to happen because of their history in New Japan. I would have Ace Austin representing Bullet Club versus Sammy Guevara. I feel like that would be a lot of fun. I would have Andrade El Idolo versus returning to New Japan, Kushida. I would have Adam Cole versus Tetsuya Naito. I would have Hangman versus... Now, in an actual world where I would book it, I would have Hangman versus Jay White. But I don't think that's the way we're going here in real life. So I'm doing Page and Okada. I would have the Young Bucks versus the Good Brothers. I think that would be fun. Darby Allin versus Hiromu Takahashi, I think would be an absolute screamer of a match. Eddie Kingston versus Minoru Suzuki. They had him, and they didn't do it. So let's do it at Forbidden Door. Another match that might actually be happening, Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. is apparently on the cards to happen. Now, my two personal favorites, and then we'll move on to the actual booking. I have Samoa Joe versus Tomohiro Ishii for the ROH title. Because that would just be dude, that's me. Personal favorite, though, Rey Fenix versus Will Ospreay. I think would be so much stupid fun. And as great as him versus Orange Cassidy is going to be, it feels kind of weird for it to be Orange Cassidy. So, we get to Forbidden Door, and this is just because I want it to happen. Miro wins the Atlantic belt that they're doing. He wins that match, and Miro is the All-Atlantic belt holder, and he just goes on a freaking tear. Adam Cole beats Tetsuya Naito with the last shot, and unfortunately, Hangman Adam Page can't get it done and has a buckshot lariat reversed into a Rainmaker and loses to Kazuchika Okada. And I just love the fact that they might do that match because I think for me, a clothesline is one of the best finishers in wrestling because of guys like Stan Hansen, Hangman Adam Page, JBL, Brody Lee. They've got wicked clotheslines. 3 cowboys burying you in a shallow fucking grave and Adam Page doing it with theatrics. I just love that. So we get finally to Jay White versus question mark. And we don't know who it is. The lights go out. Some pyro goes off. The lights come back on. And we hear... And out walks the cleaner, Kenny Omega. And we have Kenny Omega versus Jay White for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship at Forbidden Door. Not Hangman. I'm so excited. I'm sorry. I got a little excited. We have Kenny Omega and Jay White going back and forth, Jay White goes for the Blade Runner, gets reversed into a V-trigger. Kenny goes for a V-trigger, gets reversed into a Blade Runner. Kenny finally hooks Jay White for the One-Winged Angel. He spins him around, and Jay White tactically sticks his foot out and kicks the referee in the head. Kenny hits the One-Winged Angel, and because no one ever does, Jay White doesn't kick out, but there's no referee. Adam Cole comes down to the ring, calls out to Kenny, says to pick up Jay White, because Adam Cole is still mad at what Jay White did to him and didn't give him this IWGP title match. Kenny picks up Jay White. Adam Cole grabs Jay White and throws him to the side and kicks Kenny Omega between the nuts. Last shot into a Blade Runner. 1, 2, 3. Jay White retains the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship thanks to Adam Cole. We get to Dynamite on June 30th, and the Young Bucks find Adam Cole backstage and demand that he explains himself. And before Adam Cole says anything, Red Dragon comes in and attacks the Young Bucks from behind. And the Undisputed Era, but we can't use that name, is slowly forming in AEW. July 13th is going to be Fyter Fest, and July 27th is going to be Fight for the Fallen. But on the July 6th Dynamite, Adam Cole comes out and says that this has been his plan since coming to AEW. To get the Young Bucks back on his side, to get Kenny back on his side, only to take them down when they least expect it. Kenny and the Bucks come out together, reforming the Elite, and talk about how if it wasn't for them, Adam Cole would be wasting away in a tie-dye like brand in the other place. The Elite challenge the Undisputed group. You know what? I'm just going to give you the name. The new name of the Undisputed Era is the Undisputed Age, because I think that just sounds kind of cheeky. So the Elite challenged the Undisputed Age to a 6-man tag match at Fyter Fest, which they gladly accept. We get to Fyter Fest, back and forth, and the main event is the Elite versus the Undisputed Age. Kenny brings Adam Cole up for the one-winged angel, but Kyle O'Reilly saves him from getting hit by it. The Bucks and Red Dragon are going at each other back and forth outside the ring. The ref is trying to restore order when out of the crowd slides Roderick Strong, and he hits the end of Heartache on Matt Jackson, leading to Adam Cole hitting the last shot. 1, 2, 3. The full Undisputed Age is now in AEW because Roderick Strong has been asking for his release for a long time, and I think it could be happening soon. So, Dynamite after Fyter Fest. Who's ready for story time with Adam Cole, baby? And he talks about how it's a new age in AEW, that now that all of his friends are finally where they belong, it's time for them to reign supreme. We get to Fight for the Fallen, and we have Kenny Omega versus Roderick Strong. Kenny hits the one-winged angel for the win. We have the Bucks versus Red Dragon for the tag titles. And due to the numbers advantage, Red Dragon claims the AEW World Tag Team titles. We get to Dynamite the following week. Kenny and the Bucks come out, and Kenny talks about how Adam Cole has never been able to win the big one. His buddies have gold, but yet he's never had it in AEW. And there was a time where Kenny Omega was the belt collector. He could have lent Adam Cole a belt if he just so desperately needed one. So, the Undisputed Age comes out, and the Elite ask for a rematch. And Adam Cole says, okay, yeah, we'll do the rematch with you guys at All Out. But there's only 4 of you. There's only 3 of you, and there's 4 of us. So who's your 4th going to be? Kenny says, you'll find out. You will find out All Out, because I don't want you to have to be able to know who it is. But I think you're going to love it, Mr. Cole. Dynamites go on as we go. Bucks versus the Acclaim. Bucks win. Red Dragon versus Matt Sydal and Dante Martin. Red Dragon wins. Dynamite, August 17th. Tony Khan announces a ladder match for the Dynamite on September 7th. And the winner gets a tag team title shot at Full Gear. Also, the top 4 contenders for the TNT belt will face off in a fatal 4-way. And those contenders are Rey Fenix, Roderick Strong, Ethan Page, and Darby Allin. Because I think that'd be a fun match. Undisputed Age on the 24th of Dynamite fights Blackpool Combat Club, wins with Roddy pinning Wheeler Yuta. The Elite versus House of Black. Kenny pins Buddy Matthews. Adam Cole versus Samoa Joe, ROH title. And thanks to Kenny Omega, Adam Cole is screwed out of the title, and Samoa Joe retains. Dynamite 31st. The UA and Elite both have promo segments. Undisputed Age talks about dominating as a group. The Elite talk about the Bullet Club history involving Adam Cole, about how they killed him for a villain. Finally, we get to All Out. And it's the Undisputed Age versus the Elite. The Elite come out, and they have their 4th man. And the music hits. And Kenny Omega's lover, Kota Ibushi, comes out, and they form the Golden Elite versus the Undisputed Age. Once again, Kenny tries to hit the one-winged angel on Adam Cole, but is never able to hit it. The finish of the match sees a Meltzer driver on the ramp, a Golden Star bomb through a table, leading to Roderick Strong getting surrounded on all 4 sides, and we have a quadruple BTE trigger for the win. September 7th episode of Dynamite, Bucks win the ladder match to get their match with Red Dragon for the belts again. Golden Lovers team up for the first time in a while and defeat FTR. And Roderick Strong wins the match to get the TNT title match against Wardlow. Because I believe Wardlow will take it off Scorpio Sky. Also, Wardlow versus Evil, I think would be a lot of fun. That was another match that I thought of. So we have then Roderick Strong versus Wardlow, but the Elite and the Undisputed Age brawl, leading to Wardlow hitting the powerbomb and retaining the belt. Tony Khan then announces Adam Cole versus Kota Ibushi for the next week's episode of Dynamite, we have that match happen, and Adam Cole hits 2 last shots, pins Kota Ibushi, and the Undisputed Age beats down Kota Ibushi just to get under Kenny Omega's skin even more. Also, I would love to have Britt Baker just destroy Riho because of her connection to Kenny Omega. I feel like that'd be great. Also, I would have Adam Cole actually not win with the last shot, have him win with the one-winged angel on Kota Ibushi instead, because I feel like that's something that Adam Cole would do, because Adam Cole is like the best shit-eating heel to ever walk the face of the earth. Dynamite, September 28th. Tony Khan comes out and cuts a promo about how Adam Cole and Kenny Omega need to finally settle their differences once and for all at Full Gear. Winner takes all, because there's a 1 win for the UA. There's a win for the Golden Elite. But Tony says that we're going to do things a bit differently. Each member of the Undisputed Age is going to wrestle a member of the Golden Elite. And out of those 3 matches, whichever side wins 2, their partner picks the stipulation. So if Adam Cole's guys win 2 matches, Adam Cole picks the stipulation for Full Gear. And if Golden Elite wins, Kenny picks it. So we would have Kyle O'Reilly versus Matt Jackson. Kyle O'Reilly wins. Adam Cole cuts a cocky promo while Fish and Strong beat best friends or whatever. I'm just trying to give everybody something to do. Dynamite the following week, Nick Jackson versus Bobby Fish. Nick Jackson beats Bobby Fish. Kenny and Matt defeat 2.0. The last match is Kota Ibushi versus Roderick Strong. The UA, the Undisputed Age, and the Elite are at ringside watching the match happen. But if they touch each other, Tony Khan scraps everything, and Adam Cole and Kenny Omega don't get their match at Full Gear with each other. Kota Ibushi wins, and Kenny Omega gets to pick the stipulation for Full Gear. But he tells Adam Cole that he's not going to tell him just yet. He has to do some thinking. Kenny Omega comes out the following week on Dynamite and says, "Who's ready for story time with Kenny Omega, honey?" Or something, I don't know. And Kenny starts talking about his AEW run and how he loves being here with his friends, people that he thought were his friends who didn't end up being his friends. But then he says this: "However, for all the ups and downs, there is one particular moment in my AEW career that continues to bother me to this day. Let's flash back. Revolution 2020. Myself versus Jon Moxley in an exploding barbed wire death match. I wanted to kill Jon Moxley that night, and if it wasn't for a terrible production team, I would have succeeded in my mission." And he looks right down the camera and he says, "Adam Cole, I've killed you once before, and I will do it again. At Full Gear, Kenny Omega versus Adam Cole, exploding barbed wire death match." And that it feels so perfect for that feud to blow off or blow up in that way. The Dynamite before Full Gear, Kenny hits a one-winged angel on every single member of the Undisputed Age except for Adam Cole. Every time he hits one, he counts 1, 2, and when he finally hits it on Roderick Strong, he goes 3 down, 1 son of a bitch to go. And we get to Full Gear, the main event. First, Bucks versus Red Dragon, 2 out of 3 falls, World Tag Team title match. Bucks win the first fall, Red Dragon wins the second fall, and if you can cast your mind back to the Revival versus DIY the first time, where Johnny Gargano was locked in a heel hook or an inverted figure 4 for about 2 minutes and was finally forced to tap, we would have Bobby Fish tap out Matt Jackson and have Red Dragon retain the belts. We get to the main event, finally. Kenny Omega, Adam Cole, exploding barbed wire death match. The ring and the arena surrounding area has been specially designed to withstand an explosion. Fans have been moved back from the barricade so that no one gets hurt, hopefully. So I just have a few spots that I would like to see in that match. The story of the match is if Kenny can finally hit the one-winged angel on Adam Cole because he hasn't been able to do it. So I would have Kenny Omega get put through a table by a middle rope Panama Sunrise from Adam Cole. I would have Adam Cole wrap barbed wire around his knee pad and hit a last shot, but Kenny kicks out at 2 3/4. I would have Kenny hit the V-trigger into the barbed wire, so when he hits it, Adam Cole explodes into the barbed wire. I would have Kenny hit a Golden Star bomb onto a setup chair. If you don't know, that's Kota Ibushi's sit out last ride powerbomb. Which, by the way, that's a saucy finisher. I would have the classic super kick counter where Kenny goes for a moonsault, Adam Cole super kicks him out of the air because that's always pretty. I would have Kenny wedge a chair into the corner and hit Adam Cole with the V-trigger against the chair. But finally, after a 25-minute bloodbath, Adam Cole goes for the last shot again. Kenny ducks, comes back up, tries to go for the one-wing angel. Adam Cole lands on his feet, goes again for another last shot. Kenny catches him as he goes past him catches him by the wrist, pulls him into a V-trigger, hits the V-trigger, hits a last shot on Adam Cole, and finally hooks Adam Cole for the one-winged angel, walks over to the table that was set up before, looks down the camera, says goodbye, grabs Adam Cole, through the table, bang, and good night. 1, 2, 3. Kenny Omega defeats Adam Cole in the exploding barbed wire death match. Undisputed Age comes down to take Adam Cole away, but the rest of the Golden Elite stop it from happening, and Adam Cole is left in the ring when the countdown hits 0, and Kenny Omega kills Adam Cole once again. I would have Adam Cole be off TV for a bit while Kenny maybe wins the All-Atlantic belt from Miro, and then Adam Cole comes back, and then that would be another way to go with the feud, possibly have Adam Cole win the belt. I didn't go much further than Full Gear, but I feel like that would be a nice way to go. But yeah, that's how I would book Kenny Omega's return, leading to him and the Golden Elite versus the Undisputed Age.
I think that in all honesty, this was one of those feuds that really can just write itself. It's exactly. Also, there's the history before that we mentioned with, Adam Cole and Kenny Omega, them being in Bullet Club together, but also them being leaders of their own factions. It's one of those things that it's a really good story. And I think I do really love that there's so many layers that could go into this, and it's not that complicated. Like you said, the objective is, can Kenny Omega hit the one-winged angel on Cole? And for like 90% of the time, no, he can't. So it builds up to that moment to where he finally does.
I've seen storylines where wrestlers are trying to hit their finisher on their rival and they're just not able to do it. And it's always this really satisfying ending when they finally do hit it. Like when Randy Orton wasn't allowed to hit the RKO on Seth Rollins and then finally did. That was like a really oh, yeah, finally.
Right. Yeah, I think I also remember that was the build up to their Extreme Rules match where it was a cage match and Seth just says, "Oh, you can't use the RKO," and then he winds up using what he called the SKO.
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. Yeah,
it was like, oh, okay, I guess he found a loophole in a weird way, but whatever. if he would have done like a variation of like the diamond cutter, I think that would have probably been more acceptable, where he just grabs him. And then
I still love that AJ Styles promo when he talks about how Randy Orton wouldn't have survived on the independent circuit with this thing and a knockoff diamond cutter. I just thought that was so good. And even the crowd's like, "Oh shit!" Like he'd be right.
It's like, "Ooh, that might have been too real. That might have hit too close to home."
I didn't realize, by the way, that DDP was in his mid-30s when he was in his main run with WCW. I found that out a couple of weeks ago and was just like, "Wow, like that's really incredible." Like being in your mid-30s at the peak of and that's when you start your career.
And he did so much with it within the career span that he did. Going from mid-30s to, I want to say, I want to say probably like 40
late
or
40s
like
at
late
least.
like 40s, yeah, that where he finally retired. And then he did DDP yoga because he realized, you know what, I'm not feeling too good. I'm going to try this. I'm going to start making money off of it.
Yeah, exactly.
No disrespect to DDP. Shout out to him.
Love
Absolutely,
DDP.
absolutely awesome. So one of the things that you actually suggested, and I think that we do have a lot of time where we can actually cover this, is there are pluses and minuses when it comes to all professional wrestling. And one of the things that you mentioned was, what if we mentioned the positives and negatives when it comes to AEW? And we know the laundry list here, but I think that there's a way to condense it down to some of the main root problems, or also mention some of the main successes that AEW has. I mean, this is all completely unscripted, ladies and gentlemen. So if we have like kind of the same ideas, then we're going to bounce off each other in a way. So
we should also preface that neither one of us dislikes AEW in any way.
Oh no, definitely.
I thoroughly enjoy. I don't watch it every week, but I thoroughly enjoy when I do tune in. I haven't missed a paper. Actually, that's a lie. I missed Double or Nothing this couple weeks ago.
Oh,
but I normally don't. I gotta work, man.
That's fair.
I got a lady I need to support.
Shout out to the future, Mrs. Slack.
Yeah, what's up? She texted me during the show, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm like,
sorry, baby, but I gotta do a podcast right now."
I am not missing Forbidden Door. Like, I'm 100% watching that, but I thoroughly enjoy everything obviously not everything because we're going to touch on some points, but
yeah,
neither one of us is a hater.
Because the thing is that, of course, WWE, we have so much flack that we could give them. I mean, this past Friday, they had a lot of flack that they've done over two main things. But we're not here to bash WWE because anybody can do that. And honestly, I think
one of my fresh Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns is.
That's so original. But yeah, no, some of the things that we can mention with AEW is that even within 3 years, they still have that time to improve. They still have the time to learn from mistakes, so that way they don't go down that same route as WWE goes. Some people were automatically thinking like, oh well, AEW is going to get millions of views every single week. Obviously not the case, because you still have to have that fresh product. You still have to have fresh deals. And I think that one of the issues that Tony Khan has is that he's hiring too many fresh faces onto their roster. I'm not just talking WWE guys, which that can be a category in and of itself, but I don't think that really hurts anybody. It's just one of those things where, you hire too many faces, they're going to get lost in the shuffle. They're just going to be there. And then once a new person comes in, they're just going to get lost into the deal, and they'll go do Dark, or they will do Rampage, which I've said before that I think Dark would be better if it was like one of their like house shows where they just go like to a different place instead of Florida or wherever they are, instead of cramming like 7 hours of wrestling into one night.
Yeah, literally exhaust a crowd.
Because literally just go to a random place. Hell, come to Wisconsin. We have places that we can do AEW shows. You have places even up in Canada where you can literally be like, hey, this place doesn't cost so much. Let's put in a deal. Let's sell out this show. Let's sell out this arena, that kind of stuff. You don't always have to go big with them, and you don't always have to exhaust your crowd. Take Dark, take some of the people that you're not using on Dynamite and put them in there. But if somebody gets injured, well, then you got to improvise, obviously. You can have a couple of the backups, but you have so many people on your roster that you can utilize where they don't always have to sit in the back in catering. I know that's like a WWE term, but still.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not that Tony Khan he does hire a lot of WWE guys, but I remember someone did the math and they were like, okay, like 13% of his roster is WWE. And that's whatever. But like, you have guys like, I hate to say it, but what the flip was Miro doing all this time? Like, he loses the TNT title to Sammy Guevara last November, and we're just seeing him now. I know he was off injured, but apparently he's been healthy for like 2 months. So, like, that's where it's like, okay, like, you're hiring, like, Billy Gunn. Do you need Billy Gunn on your freaking pay bill? His kids are doing well enough. His guys are doing well enough with the Acclaim. You don't need guys like Billy Gunn on your pay bill. And the problem is that your pool gets so oversaturated with these big money contracts like MJF talked about, And then suddenly you're like, look at Lance Archer. Lance Archer should be an absolute top monster heel, unbeatable.
Thank you.
And it's just I don't like swearing on podcasts, but it's a fucking joke. Like, the dude's slogan is literally everybody dies. And he's not a top guy. He's just like, he just recently joined up with Jericho. I saw on Dynamite this week, like, he's part of the Jericho Appreciation Society now, or something to do with Forbidden Door. Like, let the guy go back to Japan, let him rule Japan again, and then bring him back. Or like, even like, I feel like they don't know what they're doing with the Lucha Bros half the time anymore, which is a shame too, because ever since the Lucha Bros lost the tag belts, they've just sort of been there. Like, yeah, okay, the House of Black feud is fine. And also, Julia Hart taking 10 months to join the House of Black, that was ridiculous. The payoff was great, and I love the fact that she's there. But I think, like I said before, the WWE's main problem is that they, at a time, they had a lot of talent, and they didn't do anything with them. And not that it's at the same level, but AEW is slowly creeping up on that. There are a lot of guys on that roster, like you said, that aren't on Dynamite, that aren't on Rampage, that need that exposure. I can't think, like, look at Dark Order. Dark Order was over for the better part of the 3 years that AEW was a thing, and now I haven't seen anybody on TV in like 2 months. Ever since Hangman Page won the belt finally, Dark Order hasn't really done anything. And like, John Silver is, let him go off on his own. I think John Silver would be an amazing comedy mid-carder. You know what I want to see? I want to see John Silver versus Danhausen, 15 minutes. I think that would be fun as hell. But it's not even just like the talent thing. Like, there are like little things that AEW has done in there, and we're touching on the negative stuff, but there's a lot of positive that we will definitely touch on. But another thing is that AEW has it's talented, but it's also kind of shallow with their women's division. And, you know, obviously you're not going to be able to do what WWE has done in the short amount of time that AEW has been around. But you can't just build, like, their women's division right now is built around Thunder Rosa, Jade Cargill, and whoever they throw a dart at on the dartboard. They don't have anybody else really established. Like, yeah, Red Velvet and Kira Hogan are doing their thing with Jade Cargill, and that's fun. And, you know, Toni Storm is doing her Tony time thing. But, like, has Athena wrestled since her debut? No, I don't think so, right?
No, I think you're right.
And, like, I know it sounds like I'm bitching, but when I look at the talent in the AEW women's division, that should be one of the hottest divisions, not just in women's wrestling, in professional wrestling as a whole. Hikaru Shida, Riho, Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa, even, Reba or Rebel is actually a decent wrestler when given a chance. Why they stopped doing Ty Conti and Anna Jay is weird too. I feel like that was a really good pairing. I don't know. Like I said, it's Thunder Rosa and Jade Cargill and whoever comes out on the dartboard this week. And I don't think that's a good way to run your division.
Yeah, it is really weird how the women's division actually started off really strong.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of people that were so for it. I honestly would have loved to have Hikaru Shida. She would have been the one that I would have picked to be the first ever women's champion. But of course they went with Riho because we know the reasons. But yeah, then they had, Nyla Rose. She won the title. And it was one of those things where it's like, okay.
That's another example of someone who should be an absolute monster that isn't.
She was doing good. She really was. I was there for her match with Chris Statlander. And there was a point where I actually got a little bit scared because I thought that maybe they did like a bump run. I think that there was that top rope powerbomb position. I think it was either a powerbomb or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it was like a nasty bump or something like that. I was like, ooh, that's a little rough. But still, it was a devastating move that made you think, oh, wow, this was absolutely insane to see, Nyla Rose literally be like, hey, I'm going to be a badass. I'm going to literally, win. I'm literally going to, step on everybody. And now she's paired up with Vicky Guerrero because her mic skills are not as. I think they're still a thing. I'm not sure anymore. It's kind of one of those things where it was like with like you said, there's these things where it's like, oh yeah, we forgot this person was a thing. I'm just going to talk about this because when you talked about Lance Archer, I literally am like, yes, thank you. Lance Archer is amazing.
Yes.
I have friends who literally like, I cannot stand Lance Archer because he always loses. I'm like, you know what? But somehow they still make him look like a devastating monster, at least. Even in defeat, he's literally, wrecking everybody's shit at this point.
Like that blackout move it's he
great.
Takes a move that's very simple, an overhead slam. But because of his size and the way he carries himself, it looks like it's a friggin' life ender when he hits it. I think he should be the one who wins the All-Atlantic belt. I know he's not in the tournament, but that would have been the perfect resurgence. But I'm sorry, I'm getting carried away. You continue with the Lance Archer thing.
Well, no, that was the main thing. But yeah, going back to the women's division, I am thankful that at Double or Nothing we got more than one women's match on the card, which, WWE has had a tendency of not doing that unless they had two women's championship belts. And even if they had those two women's titles, which I think at this point it's ridiculous, just put the belts together and call it a day.
They need to unify those belts.
I mean, you're unifying your world titles and your tag team titles. Hell, might as well do the same thing with the women's. Keep the U.S. and the Intercontinental titles separate, even though the U.S. title at this point has been just dog crap.
Who is the U.S. champion?
Austin Theory. I'm pretty sure he's still the champion. But yeah, I'm thankful that we're at least getting some really good matches. But the problem is that there's still not much sustenance when it comes to these. Like you were saying, like Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa was well built. It was good. But during the match itself, something just did not click. Something just did not.
Thunder Rosa doesn't have great chemistry with a lot of women outside of Britt Baker, it seems. And that's a shame because Thunder Rosa is a fantastic wrestler. But I haven't seen a match other than her match with Britt Baker where I was like thoroughly impressed.
And I think that is just, letting, Thunder Rosa and all these women, interact with other people, which thankfully they do that. They don't do like, the same rematch over and over and over again. When WWE brought, Shayna Baszler versus Raquel Rodriguez, I was like, okay, this is new. This is for NXT Women's Champions. This ought to be awesome. And I was thoroughly disappointed because it was the same like WWE Women's format where it lasted only about less than 5 minutes, I want to say, not including commercial time. And I'm seeing a lot of those moments where people are complaining that, well, they're doing the same thing with AEW. And I hate to see that. I really would love to have, them have those great matches like they did with Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, to your credit, when they had that cage match on Dynamite. It was great. It was good. They need to start doing that more. And they need to start, building up other women on the roster instead of having one of them stick their tongue right down Sammy Guevara's throat. I mean,
by the way, I'm insanely jealous of Sammy Guevara, man. Like to look that good and be engaged to Ty Conti is just ridiculous. But I digress.
He has lost all favor with me. Let the record show.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I what's funny is that like when the whole reveal happened on Dynamite this week that he was back with Jericho, I thought for a second, I was like, okay, maybe it's not Fuego. And I completely forgot that he was buddies with Sammy. And then like when he was standing there smiling on the stage, I'm like, that's not Fuego's smile. That's gotta be fucking Sammy Guevara, isn't it? And anyway, I don't know if you would agree with this, but I think right now the position that they've put Jade Cargill in really can be what defines this women's division. If they start giving her like triple threats, fatal four ways, stuff like that, even if it's like Jade Cargill versus Athena versus who's that little tiny ball of fury that was feuding with Chris Statlander recently.
I know who you're talking about. Oh gosh, I can't. Her name is on the tip of my tongue. I'm trying to remember who it was, but I know exactly who you're talking about. She's like she almost works like an MMA type of style.
Yeah. Hold on. What was the last pay-per-view before Double or Nothing?
That would have been Revolution, I want to say. Yeah, it had to have been Revolution.
Okay, I'm gonna do her because she was on the pre-show with her.
Okay. So so
Um,
so so while you're looking her up, I'll try to also, spin this and talk about one of the positives that we can definitely say about AEW is that it does
mhm.
still gives us, fresh, faces, but it also gives us fresh ideas. Like, how in the hell did Chris Jericho, of all people, literally go from one good faction to another and literally just continue to be as entertaining as he is? I know people are sick and tired of Jericho. I am not at that point. I love the fact
Layla
that
Hirsch.
Layla Hirsch. There we go.
But
Okay.
just to quickly finish my point, if you
Yes.
give spotlight to even someone like Layla Hirsch along with like Athena and maybe the freaking Nyla Rose or whatever, you don't have to have those women be at the forefront of the women's title picture, but give them exposure so that way when Thunder Rosa needs a new challenger, you're not like Anna Jay challenging Jay Cargo. That came out of left field. Like, so to not have that jarring feeling of a new challenger, like Tony Storm challenging Thunder Rosa was built this week. And it's like, but let's finally get to the positives and I'll let you get back to your point.
Yeah. So they're at least trying to give us like fresh ideas and,
Mm-hmm.
um, it is kind of, I hate to say this, it is kind of like a Vince Russo aspect where,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of throw something on the wall and see what sticks. But I feel like with a lot of the people backstage in, AW, they're at least trying to understand, the wrestling product itself and then
Mm-hmm.
throw something on there instead of just being like, oh, this is happening in pop culture. Let's just throw this on there. I mean,
Like most of what they throw at the wall does stick.
yes, I do agree with that. Some of the names may not stick. Like, you
Mm.
probably got to think of something better than Blood and Guts, but that's beside the point.
Wow.
um,
It's so bad.
they could have called it AW Fantasy Warfare for all we
Jesus.
I want that now. I'm just going to call
Oh
it Fantasy
man.
Warfare now. But it's just knockoff of War Games. No, it's a Fantasy Warfare. Shut up. Let me have this.
And they had William Regal go, blood and guts. Like, it's not the same. It's not the same.
It is not the same as War Games. I actually saw somebody make an edit where where Eddie Kingston's just like, tell him, Regal, tell him what I want, tell him what I want, and you hear War Games. It's great.
I have my buddy who's from England set up that his notification sound is William Regal screaming War Games.
That's amazing. But yeah, at least they're trying, new ideas, and they're at least trying, fresh. You're at least seeing fresh faces. Some faces you might be familiar with. Some
I love Wheeler Yuta. I didn't know who the hell he was, and they've done so well with him. And he is awesome.
It is amazing. It's one of those things where it's like you say, it's like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
And then you see him wrestle. It's like, oh, he's one of these guys. Okay, then, yeah, no.
What AEW is good with is that they're good at putting younger talent with experienced talent. So like putting Wheeler Yuta with Moxley and Danielson, or Dante Martin with Matt Sydal. Even to a degree, Lance Archer with Jake Roberts was a brilliant and is still a brilliant pairing. Yes. Same with Jericho taking Daniel Garcia in 2.0 with him to the Appreciation Society. Like, look what Jericho did for Sammy Guevara with the Inner Circle.
It's true. Let's see here. So another positive that I think I will say is that at least, they try to make storylines worth watching. You don't feel like you're going to be gouging your eyes out during some of these very cringy segments. Like, you're not going to see somebody running away in a 24/7 segment at this. Although R-Truth and All Elite, I would actually pay big money to see that. I'd like to see him just end his years with All Elite Wrestling.
I feel like he'd be great with Orange Cassidy.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like, he just confuses him for Road Dogg. So they're trying to bring back. Oh god, what was the tag team name? I'm trying to remember the tag team name for it, because it was
New Age Outlaws.
No. It was K-Quick and Road Dogg. Oh gosh, I can't remember off the top of my head what the name of the tag team was. Also, cheap plug. Did you know that Road Dogg has a podcast?
No, I didn't.
He does. It's you didn't know. I will say, I want to tell this funny story because this worked so well, because about a month ago I discovered the interview that he had with Billy Gunn and SoCal Val, where they talked about some of their time in WWE and whatnot. And all throughout the deal, he's just like, just, I have a podcast. And he's plugging this like almost every 5 minutes. It's amazing, to the point where somebody's like, speaking of podcasts, and Road Dogg just goes, can I just stop you for a bit? And the guy's like, yeah, I know you have a podcast. Oh, okay. So,
oh my God.
So Road Dogg came to Wisconsin not too long ago, and he's kind of just walking around. He actually comes up to the concession stand. I'm standing there too. And I just say to him, hey, don't you have a podcast? He's like, oh, you didn't know?
Nice. That's great. I love that.
And I
don't know why I thought of this, but have you ever seen the clip of Team Road Scholars doing New Age Outlaws?
No, did they do that?
Oh my God. When Cody Rhodes and Damian Sandow were together, they were doing a feud with Road Dogg and Billy Gunn doing New Age Outlaws.
Oh, shoot.
And I know the promo off by heart, and I kind of hate it. It's super quick. So they do the intro. Cody's like, and Damian Sandow, oh, were you not aware? Your posterior better contact somebody at once. And I was like, this is the greatest thing. And then Cody did the whole, the J or GUN or whatever. Like, he did Billy Gunn's thing, but then it was like, Team Rose Scholars. And, it's just great. I love your posterior must contact somebody at once. That is so good.
It's amazing. But
and you see the rumors flying around that he's going to be coming back as Elias, on Monday.
Oh,
the Ezekiel storyline that people want Damian Sandow to come back.
That would just be insane. I'm kind of interested in at least seeing that. But getting back to AEW, where we talk about fresh ideas.
Sorry, my bad.
Every time. I made the mistake of talking about Road Dogg's podcast, even though it's a good listen to. Definitely check it out. And also, I may have a competition for somebody who gives the best introductions in podcasting. But nice. I will not stand if I am less than number one. So I accept the challenge. But some of the things, at least, that AEW has done is that I think with pay-per-views, they definitely do a good job of, being sporadic with them. You don't see them like every single month where, you have to cram so much into that 1 month deal. They at least take time to build this up and be like, why is this person, why are these two people feuding? I think that's one of the things I loved about, Paul Heyman's deal, where he said, it's really not that hard to book wrestling. You literally have wrestler A, wrestler B. Why are they fighting, and what are they fighting for? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of those things where like AEW does still have that mentality where it is, here's A, here's B. They're all going to coincide, and they're going to go all the way to PPV.
Right.
Because I refuse to call it anything else. Nice try, WWE. It's not a premier live event or whatever the hell it is. So at least their pay-per-views feel meaningful. And are all of them home runs? No, but not all pay-per-views are always going to be that. But are they at least are most of them enjoyable? Hell yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about, like WrestleMania, main things that came from me were like Stone Cold coming out of retirement, Cody Rhodes, and Roman Reigns blowing out his shoulder during that main event or his bicep or something like that. With Double or Nothing, I can remember, Punk winning the title. I can remember an awesome 6-man tag between Death Triangle and Malachi. That was just absolutely great. I remember the, 2 Owen Hart matches because you have 4 individuals that absolutely just killed it. And for all intents and purposes, Ruby Soho is great. And that was like one of her best showings. So I defy anybody to say otherwise. But I found myself, having more memorable deals. I mean, are people going, I also remember in WrestleMania, Rick Boobs blowing out his knee, trying to do like a double. I miss that dude now.
Yeah, I miss him a lot. By the way, you were talking about all the whole AEW pay-per-views home runs. I had to go back through my Twitter. I remember being about this close to being done with AEW when All Out 2020 happened, because it was just an absolute – that was the show that was the main event was MJF versus Jon Moxley, and Moxley cheated to win. And I remember being like, I will never pay for an AEW pay-per-view again. And then they made Revolution or the Full Gear card, and I was like, fuck, here's my card. And they wanted me back with that one, but I remember All Out just being like livid, being like another fucking company taking my money. Like, But what they, like you said, they're very good at, they mix old talent really well with new talent. And I think they made a mistake by moving pay-per-views back to Sundays and not doing Saturdays, because I think Saturday pay-per-views is guaranteed more money, I think, to come in revenue-wise.
Oh yeah, no, I could agree with that.
But then also, like, they all, I know I'm sounding like a very negative person talking about AEW, but they have a problem as well, though, with like because of the lack of pay-per-views, because they only do 4. I think they should do 6 a year. Personally, that's what I think. I think half your year should have a pay-per-view, because I have a problem with my thing was that I didn't know how to stretch the Omega feud from All Out to Full Gear. And I'll admit, a lot of that was just clutter that I needed to fill the time. And I think the distance between pay-per-views can harm storylines, because I was happy when Adam Page finally won the belt, but the gap between when that story first started for him and when he won the belt, I was just like so tired. Like, I was just like, oh, same with like Christian and Jungle Boy falling out. That should have happened weeks ago. And sure, Christian turning heel is cool, but I don't know. I just think I do like majority of the product, but I'm such a nitpicker when it comes to something that I really like, that I think the lack of pay-per-views, don't go to a WWE scale because they've got like 12 a year. Just do 6 or even just do 5. Have something between, I would say have something between Revolution and
Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing, because that's a gap of almost 4 months. Put something in January or in February, and then Double or Nothing is your next one, right? And I'm sorry. I meant between Full Gear and Revolution, not Full Gear to Revolution is almost 4.5 months, because I think Revolution is a March pay-per-view and Full Gear is in November. If you stuck something in January, perfect, because that's a good, even if it's just like a special 3-hour Dynamite, just to get some storylines, tied up, But there are matches on pay-per-views that don't need to be there. Like, as much as I love Darby Allin, his match at Double or Nothing didn't need to be on the Double or Nothing card. Like, there was no need for it whatsoever. Same with the Hardys versus the Bucks. That did not need to be a pay-per-view match, because the Bucks can pull a 5-star match with 20 minutes of Dynamite time. They did it this week.
That's true.
So oversaturating the pay-per-view cards, I think, is another small issue.
I do agree with that. I think that, to also your credit with some of the matches, and this will probably be like the last thing I kind of nitpick about AEW, because I've already talked about my issues with AEW in a previous podcast, is some of the matches, the false finishes are too much.
For sure.
Because
that's why I'm worried about Forbidden Door, because I think it's going to get kind of stupid.
I could see that, because I think over in Japan, they like the storytelling. I think they like the high drama.
Sparing with it.
Yes. Whereas here, our patients can wear very thin. If you go to the well one too many times, you're going to piss off a lot of people. So.
Yeah. I think one of the worst examples isn't even AEW. It was Tommaso Ciampa versus Adam Cole at a TakeOver. And the match ran for 40 minutes, and it should have been 15 minutes shorter, but all the false finishes were just, it was getting ridiculous. Like, right. I wasn't even excited anymore. Like, same with AEW. Like, if I see Hangman Page hit a buckshot lariat, I know it's not the end of the match. But the only time you know it's the end of the match is when, that's actually kind of what I like about how protected the One-Winged Angel is because there's always that sense of like, oh, he could be the first one to finally do it, to kick out, and then, but obviously it's probably never going to happen. Maybe Jay White. Maybe Jay White will do it. I don't know.
Ooh, that would be very.
I feel like Jay White's the only one at this point that could do it. Personally, or maybe Punk, but that's a little too obvious.
Well, Punk's going to be out of the way for a while now, and I really hate to say that. He'll
probably be back by the end of the year, though, because apparently his surgery went really well. So they're hoping that he'll be back for at least Full Gear.
Fingers crossed, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, when they continue to do the false finishes. It definitely does just wear so much on people, especially. Yeah, I think that with the high spots, that's something that can be saved for crazy matches like the main event or pay-per-view matches. And obviously, I think AEW does have an issue where they do. I know I said that was going to be the last one, but I guess I had one more in me where when you do too many high spots, too many crazy spots, you're at risk of hurting yourself during that point because you have to let your body cool down. You have to let your body recover. And if you do those high spots like crazy all the time, it takes your toll. It takes a toll on his body. I mean, there's so many people that will agree with that, and people that are sadly in wheelchairs that will say that as well. Yeah. I mean, I hate to go that dark, but
no, and that actually kind of leads me to another point. But then I'll actually touch on some some positives that really are stick out positives for me. I think it was, I don't remember what pay-per-view it was, but it was Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy. And I think you already know where I'm going with this.
I do.
When they jumped off the, whatever that machine's called, and Hardy hit his head off the concrete, that should not have continued. And yet, and even Remy Sky was on Twitter freaking out, why did that match continue? And then it also happened with Alex Reynolds I don't know if you know about the Alex Reynolds incident.
I am not too familiar with it. No.
So it was Dark Order versus Private Party and a couple of other guys. I don't remember who it was. It was during the pandemic era, and Private Party at the time was with Matt Hardy, and they did, that Jeff and Matt have that spot where Matt hits the leg drop and Jeff hits the body splash both off a separate turnbuckle.
Yes.
So they did that spot, but they swapped it. So it was I think it was Isaiah Cassidy and the other guy whose name I don't know. They switched it. So the leg drop was to the body and the body splash was to the upper body. So right there, that's already risky enough. But it's you know what? You're professionals. And unfortunately, it got botched. And when the other guy who wasn't Isaiah Cassidy went for the body splash, his knee right into the side of Alex Reynolds' head and knocked Alex Reynolds out cold. But nobody knew he was unconscious, and they wrestled around his unconscious body until they were able to drag him back to the corner. But it was a good minute that he was just sitting in the middle of the ring, and they did a big brawl spot, and he wasn't moving at all. Oh. And it's just the safety of some of their wrestlers, even doing death matches on cable, just to pop a rating to me is kind of insane, especially with somebody like Jericho. Dude's in his 50s. He should not be doing death matches. Nobody should. Granted, I booked the barbed wire death match, but that has to happen again.
But you also had younger talent, so it kind of is one of those things where there's less risk, but at the same time, I think I get where you're coming from. But
that's another thing that I actually like about AEW is that they do a lot of different stuff, and they don't. Blood and Guts is just War Games, right? But then, even little things, not calling it a 6-man tag, calling it a trios match, I kind of like that thing. The time limit thing works really well, and the fact that, even Jericho leading into being a sports entertainer is brilliant because everyone hates that term. But the way they've built, I feel like the way they've built younger talent truly is AEW's strong suit. Because, you gave Jericho the belt at the very beginning when the company started, and a lot of people were against that. But I'm pretty sure I was on Kings of the Rings, actually. Shout out to them. Before the first AEW show, and it was Hangman Page versus Jericho. And both of the hosts said, it has to be Hangman Page. And I was like, it has to be Chris Jericho. And they're like, what? Why would it have to be him? And I was like, think about it. If you line up 100 people and you tell them, hey, there's this new wrestling company and Hangman Page is their champion, who the flip is Adam Page? And no one's going to tune in. But if you tell those same 100 people, hey, there's this new company and Chris Jericho is their champion, oh, what's this company? Like, I need to tune in. I know Chris Jericho. And using they were using their WWE talent very well at the beginning because they were using it to promote their guys. Like, it's like, hey, it's Cody Rhodes. You know him, but look at this Darby Allin kid. Or, hey, this is Chris Jericho, but look at this Sammy Guevara guy. Right? And, like, they're still doing it. Like I said, with Wheeler Yuta and Dante Martin. But there's a lot of guys that still need more exposure. But I think having, like what you said, giving those guys time on Dark, I think if they moved Dark off of YouTube and actually got a small cable deal, I feel like they would be able to promote bigger talent and like more talent. So that way, like, the title picture doesn't always look the same. Like the fact that Scorpio Sky has already been a 2-time TNT champion and Sammy Guevara is a 3-time TNT champion is insane. It's insane. That belt is so dead in the water right now.
Well, that hopefully will change in the forthcoming months, but we'll see. So I think this is a good time to call us a wrap. I mean, my God, we talked about fantasy books and then we talked about wrestling because we're two just dorks that love wrestling at this point.
I prefer the term aficionado.
Fair enough. So before we head on out, this is the time to do cheap plugs. So Mr. Slack, do you happen to have any social media deals where people can vent their opinions to you, especially when you talk about Chris Jericho being the world champion?
Yeah. You can, it's so bad. I don't know my own Twitter handle off by heart. Like, but my Twitter handle is @slackstyle09. That's where I do most of my wrestling shit talking. You can also follow me on Instagram @slackstyle09 as well. I don't really talk about wrestling on there. That's just like where Slack is actually just Michael. Which is like the weirdest thing because like I have friends on there from Twitter that are like, this side of you is so weird. Like where's the snarky jerk from Twitter? And I used this joke before, but again, if you want to tick my talk, Slackstyle09 as well. I'm pretty sure it's just Slackstyle09 no matter where you go, honestly. So you just Google that and you'll find me. You can say and whatever you want. I'll just let it slide.
Let it slide. Let it slide. so for those of you that would like to hear my opinions, my official Twitter handle and Instagram handle is @RealFNGame. You can also check me out on the Brace for Impact podcast that is on Wrestle Addict Radio @Addict_Wrestle. And definitely check out a lot of the great shows that are also on there, such as the Kings of the Rings, Fretzlemania, as well as the Young Lions Perspective. And you know what? Since you want to promote your TikTok, I'll promote mine as well. It's at the Game Changer Pod, which I literally have no videos on there, but I'm hoping to change that within the future.
Our friend Mr. Fretz is also a TikTok user as well and posts a lot of videos. Great. I love it. I love when he comes up.
I see his stuff on there. I also see my friend Michael Carr on there, who's a wrestling fan from Wales, and nice. he does some really impressive stuff too. Oh gosh, I want to plug it. I want to plug him at this point. If you want to check him out and give him a follow, his is at Michael Carr with 2 R's at the end. 697. Definitely check out his stuff. It is absolutely entertaining. He is like I guess somebody has called him like the Doctor Who of TikTok because he does a lot of Doctor Who videos. It's great. You can also check out the Game Changer podcast on so many different podcasting formats, including iTunes, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, you name it. We're basically there at this point. So thank you so much, Lack, for being a part of this. And this has been a lot of fun. It definitely needs to happen. It needs to be an annual thing. I'm declaring this right now. Anytime we do fantasy bookings, it's an annual thing at this point.
Sure. I'll definitely do that.
So
100%.
So for Slack, I've been NateFNGreat. This has been the Game Changer podcast. Have you guys a wonderful night. And remember to keep wrestling real. Sort of, kind of. Adios.